Companies these days seem extremely unwilling to hire junior engineers. The problem is that as aspiring engineers, we need a job to get experience, but for some reason, we need experience to get a job. What's up with that? In this video, I'm going to explain the crazy world of entry-level software positions and explain why they are the way that they are. It's no secret that breaking into the software field is extremely challenging. There are a number of things that you have to fight through. Competing with people who have 0 to 5 years of experience, navigating through extremely tough interviews, and trying to make yourself stand out in a crowd of engineers. I think it makes sense for us to discuss what is an entry-level software job and what do they do. So basically, it is someone who is expected to have great coding fundamentals, but in general is very raw with their skills and lack deep understanding of software in general. They have to be trained and formed into a fully functioning software engineer, and the company has to take a chance and foot the bill for that training. Entry-level engineers are expected to be teachable, hardworking, and while it's not a hard requirement, have some sort of computer science background. With the idea being that after about 6 months of training as an entry-level software engineer, you can become a productive member of the team. So why would companies want to hire junior engineers in the first place then? In general, there are 3 reasons: investment in future potential, mentorship opportunities, and of course, economic reasons. Because in general, companies will have 2 philosophies around hiring junior engineers. They will either massively underpay them, hoping to discover undervalued talent from this pool of fresh new graduates, or companies will overpay them in the hope to retain them long-term by giving them their loyalty upfront. So what is the problem then? It sounds like there are wins on both sides. Companies can get fresh talent and engineers can get experience. So why is it so hard to find an entry-level job? This leads into the modern problem for software engineers. In the past decade, there has been a ridiculous amount of money flowing into the tech sector because of growth and hype. And all of this really culminated in 2021. Companies were incentivized to borrow as much money as possible to keep the economy running. And in a state of not feeling left out, companies began hiring left and right, leading to this explosion of software job positions open and hiring of software engineers. But now in 2023, things are different. Lately, the monetary policy in the US has been all about fighting inflation, which in a TLDR means that it is now more expensive for companies to borrow money. And in turn, these startups hear this and they slowly begin to clamp down on the money they're using every month. And there are other reasons 2023 has been tough for the tech industry. Most people who have professional jobs right now have been coding for a long time. And you can see that the majority of them are mid-level engineers. And people learning to code are much younger, which is creating a very competitive environment and huge demand for these junior level positions. So given this environment, we're going to go through 2 contrasting opinions about entry-level positions. So for businesses, the general reason that they don't want to hire junior engineers is around 2 things: productivity and profitability. Let me give you a hypothetical example that I didn't understand when I was first applying for my first software job. Imagine at a company, we have 3 different types of developers that work at all different productivity levels. A junior level works at a productivity level 1. Mid-level engineers work at a 2 to 3, and the star developer, who we'll call Susan, works at a productivity level 4. And currently, Susan is essentially working on her own and producing great code for the company. But management wants Susan to work on a high visibility project that will take a lot of work. It needs a total hypothetical productivity of a level 8, which means the company has 2 options: hire 4 junior engineers and put them in a team with Susan, or hire another star developer, essentially Susan's clone. The problem with hiring someone of Susan's caliber is that it's extremely difficult to find an engineer like her. In order to find one, it would likely cost tens of thousands of dollars of recruiting costs. It would probably cost a lot of engineering time to interview great candidates and other compounded costs. So we'll ignore that first example and stick to the example of adding 4 junior engineers into a team with her. And while the logic of hiring 4 junior developers might seem appealing at first, in reality, the introduction of 4 developers could disrupt the productivity of Susan. There are 2 options of how a team with Susan and the developers could work. The first option for adding 4 developers is to tell Susan to keep all of her normal development responsibilities while mentoring these 4 new people. But the problem with this is that Susan might find herself slowly transitioning into a role that she's not happy with. Imagine she's tasked with helping out all these engineers and mentoring them and still has the same amount of coding work as before. Her time is pulled more and more away from the things that she loves to do, and instead she's spending all her time in meetings and planning the project. And over the course of the year, she starts to burn out heavily after spending all of her free time and the weekends trying to catch up on her coding work that she'd been missing out because of all the mentoring. And one day, all this becomes way too much, and she leaves the company. Suddenly, our hypothetical company has 4 junior engineers that don't understand the product nearly as much as the seasoned developer did. This is probably worst case scenario. Okay, let's go to the second example, where Susan willingly transitions into a managerial role for the 4 engineers, with the hope being that the junior engineers will be trained up to mid-level engineers within a year. And say, during the course of that year, Susan actually loves her new role and is able to coach up all 4 engineers to mid-level. This is the dream scenario for the company. But now, these 4 newly minted mid-level engineers, they recognize their worth in the market. And come the end of the year, when it's time for review and raises, the company just doesn't meet their new compensation expectations. And those engineers might decide that now it's time to jump ship. This is a hyper simplified example that will never happen in real life, but it's here to illustrate a point. Junior engineers need coaching and tutoring that cost time and money, and potentially the mental health of other engineers. So you probably have a lot of thoughts about this example right now. Let's dive into the contrarian example about why junior engineers are actually an amazing investment and why they are stereotyped unfairly. Junior engineers can be incredibly passionate to get results at any cost. Let's revisit both team scenarios from earlier from a different perspective. Let's say Susan is mentoring 4 engineers while still maintaining all of her coding work from previously. In reality, Susan is probably not spending all her time mentoring these new engineers. She's probably swamped with her own coding tasks. And either she doesn't really have time to help these engineers, or she doesn't want to, or a combination of the two. This scenario will leave a lot of the junior engineers in a trial by fire situation, where they will do anything to get their tasks done. They use Stack Overflow, ChatGPT, they work nights, weekends, anything to get the project done. And although in the end they probably produce much less polished work than Susan could, they still deliver. And after going through project after project like this, going through fire after fire, suddenly they're probably going to start feeling pretty good about their skills. They've showcased their commitment, their resiliency, and their willingness to work hard. And when it comes time for their annual review, they expect a salary raise to match the work they've been putting in. But instead, they're met with a small bump, which is far from what they were expecting. And in their frustration, they decide to go out and shop for new opportunities. And suddenly, their job search dynamic looks completely different compared to the first time they looked for a software job. Instead of being ghosted and ignored by all companies at every twist and turn, instead they're getting a massive amount of callbacks and interviews from companies. Companies see these engineers with 1 year of experience as a much lower risk. And suddenly they've become much more desirable in the software job market. And eventually they leave the company, which from the company's perspective is a waste of resources. But from the engineer's perspective, it's just simply good business and them looking out for the best deal for themselves. And this is in essence why it's so hard to find a junior level role now. Not just economic conditions, not just because of college degrees, not just because of boot camps. It's because companies view junior engineers as a double-edged sword. On one hand, they require a lot of resources to train and invest time in. And on the other hand, once they are fully trained, they leave. And conversely, from the engineer's perspective, juniors are self-sufficient and they're passionate about what they do. They are driven by the memory of how painful it was for them to find their first job, and they're willing to do anything, to put any amount of work in to make sure they don't have to go through that process ever again, and to make sure they have job security and a career for the rest of their lives. Which means that because of all this, the only companies willing to take a chance on junior engineers are generally the ones that are already making a lot of money or have a lot of money. But they will still leave job applications up for them, which is why you see these posts with thousands and thousands and thousands of applicants. So if you're hunting for an entry-level software position, you might be asking, what can you do about it? There's actually a number of things. In general, when companies are hiring, they're looking for a couple of things: passion about software, self-drive, and a passion for the company. But if you convert that to company speak, It basically translates to you are great at coding and you love this career. You don't need handholding and can figure things out on your own without distracting a lot of people, and that you won't leave the company as soon as the 1-year mark comes around. Which means that we can take this, what the company really wants, and deconstruct it to give us the best chance of finding these jobs. One thing that is a must-have in my life is constantly learning and progressing my skills. That's why I'm excited to partner with Skillshare for this video. So Skillshare is a platform that I've actually already used before they even reached out to me. And they have a wide variety of classes of all kinds of different creative and business skills. For viewers of my channel, topics that might interest you are the ones about productivity and web development. And these courses themselves are also taught by a variety of different instructors, so you can pick which one you like. For me personally, I really enjoyed this beginner to pro course by Ali Abdaal, teaching you how to edit videos effectively in Final Cut Pro. Because when I was first learning to edit YouTube videos, a lot of different sources were fragmented and it was difficult to find specifically tailored editing information for YouTubers. But since Ali Abdaal has a lot of experience in that realm, his advice on Skillshare saved me a huge amount of time of Googling and searching for things, all in one place. So if you're interested in Skillshare, the first 500 people to use my link will get access to one of Skillshare's best offers, 30 days free and 40% off your first year of Skillshare membership. And as always, thanks for watching.